Hello, folks. Welcome back to another episode of CamBro Conversations with your host, Colin Campbell. And today we are speaking about how you can create impact with the written word. And there's no better guest that I could wish to have on to discuss this topic than my friend Chris Burns, who is a copywriter known as the Savage Scholar. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Colin. It's a pleasure and an honour to be here.
Fantastic. So, Chris, for the listeners that aren't aware of a little bit about your background and why they should be listening to you on this topic, do you want to give a bit of an introduction?
Yeah, thanks. Like Colin said, Chris Burns. I have spent the past 12 months full-time copywriting, I would say, 12 months. I started out, my first kind of business was in personal training, so I come from the fitness space and transitioned to copywriting because, well, for reasons that we'll get into later on in this episode. And prior to being in the fitness space, I spent 8 years working in the hospitality sector as well. So when I didn't, and that was at the time where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Hospitality to fitness to copywriting, not your typical career path, but here we are. It's all worked out well in the end.
That's it. And I've probably got to know you when you were in that fitness space as a personal trainer and doing some online coaching as well through Instagram. And one thing that always stood out was the quality of your posts and your messaging and what you were saying on Instagram. And straight away, it was kind of a bit different to what a lot of people were writing and some of the calls to action. And I know that's a term that we'll probably speak about later on. And just the general messaging was quite interesting and thought-provoking. And that's certainly something that we'll go into as the podcast goes. One of the things that people will probably want to pull out from this episode is you've had your own business twice now in two different businesses, one in the fitness space and one now in the copywriting space. Why the move from PT away from that? I appreciate you moved from hospitality into PT as well, so that might be interesting for people to understand too.
Yeah, I think each time I've changed like careers, which has been just obviously twice, it's always been down to lifestyle for me. It's always been because I wanted to lead a certain lifestyle. I wanted to have certain things in my life. I wanted to have a certain level of kind of quality of life, and I was trying to find something that would best fit that. So for me, going from hospitality, I've always been passionate about fitness. I've always had a massive interest in it. And it was the only real career that I ever really thought about doing was being a coach. So that was fairly natural. But then when I got into personal training, and I loved it, and I was very fortunate to have some really incredible clients who are now called friends. But I got to a stage where I was looking at my life and saying, this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to be in the gym till 9 o'clock at night. I don't want to be up in the gym at 6:30, 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, it's taken away from the quality of life and the things that I really want. So it was pretty hard, I'm not going to lie, because I was always known as the fitness guy in my kind of crowd of friends and in my family. So you kind of feel like quite strongly tied to that identity, even though you don't really want to identify with it anymore. You know, it's like, well, I don't really want to do this. And then you question yourself and you think, have I failed? Like, have I let myself down? Do I need to stick this out? But I think when you really do some kind of soul searching and really decide, right, how do I want my life to look? You know, I was looking around saying, I'm not getting any younger. You know, I was 28, 29 at the time, and I'm saying to myself, like, you really need to make a call here. You know, the time for dilly-dallying's over, because just to give a very quick background, I had half a foot in copywriting throughout my PT career. I was doing a little bit on the side. And then it came down to just looking and saying, like, where are you going to be in the next 5 years? How's it going to look? How's your life going to look with your family, with your partner? And copywriting was ticking all the boxes. Yeah, it was giving me the vehicle for the growth that I was looking for. So I made the call and not looked back since.
Yeah, and I know from conversations that we've had previously that you are incredibly passionate about your fitness. You were incredibly passionate about helping people, and you enjoyed that. But when you were doing the copywriting on the side, you could see that lit a fire in you, that even saying that the fitness side of things was important to you, it didn't do the same. And it and that can be hard for people to to think, and I know when you're saying that people identified with you as the fitness guy, the guy that was passionate about his fitness, the guy that could help them get in shape, the guy that could help them perform better, move more weight in the gym, feel better. But similar to myself, people sometimes assume that because you've got a passion for exercise yourself, or even for providing supportive content like I do on Instagram, that I must want to be a coach or a personal trainer. But that's not necessarily the only thing in your life that you can be allowed to be interested in, and the only thing that you can be allowed to make your money from. And I guess, what did the shift look like? Because albeit we've made it sound quite drastic there, but you like you say, you were doing it part-time for a little bit of time. What was that like then, alongside coaching in a gym?
It was quite hard, to be honest, because I think that you're literally going. I was going from, say, 3-4 clients back to back into a coffee shop, and you've got to go into copywriting modes, and you've got to be thinking about, okay, what's this product launch looking like? What's this ad copy going to look like? And it's very difficult to switch between the two. Even like right down to everything, and this sounds, I think people will be more conscious of this since they've been working from home so much. Even down to the way that you're dressed, everything about you is identifying a trainer. You know, you're wearing fitness gear, you're sitting there, you've got all your fitness gear with you, and you're trying to get a copywriter, and you're in the fitness mindset. You've just came from 4 client sessions where you've talked about nutrition, you've talked about exercise technique, and then all of a sudden you're like, right, well, now we need to go into a copywriter's mindset, and I'm sitting there going, well, I'm really conflicted here. You couldn't really get into the flow of things. Yeah. Not to sound like a frustrated artist, like I couldn't find my copy. You've got to find your focus as a copywriter. You've got to get into a flow when you're writing, and it's a real struggle sometimes. And I think that's honestly why a lot of my work was subpar for so long. It wasn't good enough. Simple as that. Okay. Looking back, now I know what good copyright looks like. Looking back, I'm like, that's embarrassing. Can't believe I was actually trying to write that for somebody. But I think a lot of it was to do with the fact that you just try to juggle two things that should, 2 main careers, and it's just not really possible,
Yeah, I think I suspect that period where you're looking back and it's maybe you don't look favourably on what you wrote, you probably learnt a lot from even doing that. So I suppose that period would have been worthwhile regardless, in terms of hours under the belt, experience you got. And it's an interesting point you touched on about environment. I didn't think we would cover that in this pod, to be honest, but let's go in on that a little bit. And an important point you raise is people are working from home increasingly now during this crisis, and they probably are more aware than ever that where you're set up, how you're dressed, how you feel, how you're thinking will reflect in your output at work. So for you to say, I was in fitness mode and I found it really hard to switch to copywriting mode, makes total sense when people are wondering why, sitting in their pajamas with Jeremy Kyle on the background with their work laptop out, they're wondering why they're not as productive as when they're sat in office wear in an office surrounded by your colleagues. The environment's different, your head's different, your mindset's different. So ultimately, that's a really, hopefully a valuable point for everyone, even if that's all you take from the start of this podcast, that how you set yourself up in terms of readiness to work and contribute will be reflected. How did you start to make the shift then, and what kind of investment did you have to make, Chris, to move towards full-time?
So I had to, the main investment was time, like anything else, so there was a time investment in terms of, I realised that I really needed to up my skills, and I really needed to be competitive in a pretty highly competitive market. And I think the biggest shift in that was I actually realised what I was asking clients for, and literally I was asking my clients to pass over the responsibility for generating leads and sales and impact with their audience, and that's a huge responsibility. I think when I realised that, you're saying, right, well, you can't just mess around anymore. You need to invest time in actually practicing the craft of copywriting. Like anything else, there's ways you can accelerate that process. So I invested in a course called the Freedom Kickstarter, run by a guy called Mike Samuels, a great guy, done a lot for me, and I invested in that course, and that was the first time I got my biggest win to that point in terms of my career as a copywriter. I got a huge win, I landed a massive client, and I felt great about it because I didn't feel under pressure to deliver. I felt I knew I could deliver the work that I had promised because of the skills that I'd learned. And yeah, I just felt like I was going into it, like I said, in a position of authority where I could actually contribute to the business. And that's when I really first realised, right, now is the time to kick on. It's a quite a good story for the listeners to take a lesson away. Part of the course was a mastermind, and I got the dates mixed up, and I thought it was 2 weekends later than it was, and I realised 2 days before. So I jumped in my Ford Fiesta, and for the listeners, I'm 6'3", 16 stone. It's not the comfortablest car in the world when you're a larger lad, and drove down to Southampton, 9-hour drive on 2 days' notice to make the event, and it was one of the best decisions I've made in my business. It would have been easy to write that off. It would have been easy to say, oh, I've not got a hotel booked, or the flights cost a fortune, train costs a fortune, and I just jumped in, drove down Friday night, got there, drove down Saturday, got there Saturday night, had the event all day Sunday, and drove straight up the road again after the event on Sunday at about 5 o'clock, and it was worth the backache from the car journey. It was worth everything that I had to invest in it.
Of course. And one of the themes that seems to be running through a lot of the podcasts when we're speaking to successful people in the business and the fitness space is that investment in external support from somebody who's further ahead in their given field. And your investment with Mike Samuels for your copywriting is another example of that, where you were able to invest some money. I appreciate it might have been quite a large sum as well, in handing over the kind of the reins to guide you on your path. Now, ultimately, obviously, you only get out of that what you put in, and that is attending the masterminds, doing the work, reading through the course, and implementing it. But the kind of key lesson is perhaps that you've got that support from somebody further up the chain that can try to get you towards that. What were the kind of key things you learned from that? I appreciate we'll get into depth later on about how people can improve their own copywriting from your advice, but was there anything that was completely revolutionary that just upskilled you straight away?
To be honest with you, I think that, there was real kind of craft focused stuff, which was actually about, how you structure copy and things like that. But the biggest takeaway was actually from how you structure your business. That was the biggest thing, because I realised that I was closer than I thought skill-wise. Still wasn't there, and the Freedom Kickstarter got me up to that level. But the biggest takeaway was how to approach getting clients, and the single biggest takeaway was removing the emotion from the process, and that was a game changer. If you remove the emotion from client prospecting and realise they're not buying you, they're not rejecting you, they're not rejecting all the hard work you've put in. This is a simple business transaction, and of course you want it to flourish into a relationship. That's the way I approach business. I want a great relationship with my clients. However, when you're sending out pitches or you have a strategy call and it doesn't convert, that's fine. On to the next. Doesn't matter. Don't get tied up in the emotions of it, and don't start to spiral out of control and think that you're not good enough, because you're attaching it to an outcome that you have really no control over. I mean, you can control it up to a point. You can put in a great sales pitch and you can give them loads of value, but ultimately you can turn around and say, no, I don't have the budget, or you're not a good fit. That's fine. That's not a failure. So I think that was the biggest thing that I took away from Mike. It really just totally changed, because I used to spend a whole week writing one pitch to a client, and it would get patched a belter, and then I'd be sitting there like, I'm hopeless at this. And then I wouldn't send one for 2 months and wonder why my business wasn't growing. Looking back, it's so obvious, but at the time when you're in that total clusterfuck of emotions, you're just like, I'm failing every day here, every pitch is getting patched. So that was the biggest takeaway for me.
That's brilliant, and I think when we frame that in any industry, so even my own or anyone that works where you need to convert leads into sales, you need to try and remove that emotion, like you say, and that's such a valuable lesson where, like you say, you if you got a rejection, you would then mope for a couple of months or however long it was before you tried to get another one in. And nobody is ever going to grow their business or grow their income by not continuing to prospect and not continuing to reach out for business. And that seems like a really valuable lesson in any form of business development where you're trying to acquire new clients. You do need that thick skin, and it seems that Mike gave you a methodology and a mindset to acquire that and to then utilize that in attracting clients. And like you say, and we'll get onto this as a bit of an example of one of the clients that you did secure, you need to be so tenacious, you need to be so resilient, you need to continue in the face of adversity and with a belief that your product is the right fit for them, and then showing why. And like I say, we're speaking about copywriting today, but that's relevant everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. It's a fundamental principle of growth. For me, any kind of growth in any industry or personal, you're going to get rejections and you're going to get things that don't quite go your way. How you react to that is everything. And if you let it derail you, then you're going to suffer for it. So you need to find a way, whatever way it is for you, find a way to not let rejections or setbacks derail you from your end goal. That's ultimately what you should be striving towards.
That's it, Chris. That's an admirable goal for all of us. One of the things I was going to ask you about is, do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about some of the experience you did have when you were trying to acquire clients originally, when you were still doing it part-time? I know that you had a lot of lessons to learn from that prospecting phase and making sure that it was the right fit for you with that business and making sure that they were actually as invested in you as it seemed.
Yeah, I had a lot of valuable experiences. I don't call them negative anymore, don't call them bad, because at the end of the day they taught me a lot. But I had a lot of times where I would prospect a client, and one in particular that we've spoken about, obviously I'm not going to mention her name for obvious reasons, but very, very big in the fitness space. And looking back, now I can see how I was getting strung along, but I just thought it was part of the process, and I was delivering work, and it was really good, and it was on time, and I was getting good feedback, and it was doing everything it should do. And then it came to the time to discuss contracts and to discuss payment, and I get completely ghosted.
Yeah.
No comeback from it. I've spent hours of my time putting things together. I mean, I'm talking a really long period of time. And there was always that carrot dangled in front of me of a permanent contract, of really high paying retainer work, all the rest, all the things I wanted. It was always dangled in front of me. The second the conversation was there, it was gone. I've also made the mistake of doing really low paid work off of like freelancing websites.
Okay.
And you get what you sign up for. When you get that, if people are paying bargain prices, they're not good clients, they don't treat you well, they don't appreciate your work, they try to squeeze every drop out of you, they'll hold back payments and things like that. But the thing is, these are all things that really make you quite a toxic mindset. You don't look forward to opening your emails because you're like, I'm going to have another abusive email here, or you don't really look forward to client calls, and that just creates a kind of really vicious cycle that you struggle to get out of, because you think that's the only way to get started. So I had plenty of that at the start, Colin, plenty of times where I've been rejected, plenty of times where things were looking great, and this is another mistake I made. I would always count my chickens, before they hatched, and I'd be telling my girlfriend that I'd signed this big client, and this is going to be great, brilliant, and then poof, nothing. And then the come down from that is, it wasn't good. But I've now learned from that, which I'm very grateful for. And whenever anybody reaches out to me for advice with copywriting, I'll always make sure I tell them those stories and tell them that all the mistakes I made. I think sometimes those mistakes are more powerful in terms of lessons than anything else I could give them.
Yeah, so valuable to have that experience and appreciate at the time. It would have hurt, and even looking back, it's kind of like rubbing salt in old wounds, trying to reactivate them, which is unfortunate. But that kind of framing where you're saying that these were valuable experiences for me rather than negative. Of course, at the time, the emotion's awful and it's negative and it's scarring. But in life, we learn a lot of things from the challenges and the kind of more unfortunate circumstances we sometimes encounter. And it's clear from discussing it with you that you're in a position now where that's very unlikely to happen to you again, because you probably have systems in place. You probably have an awareness that this isn't going the way it should do. And and for the low ticket stuff, you straight away wouldn't put yourself in that ballpark anymore, because you realized that wasn't the way for you to scale and grow the business in the way that you wanted it to, and it wasn't sustainable. So those lessons sound really valuable and are relevant to all industries. Hopefully, I certainly know from experience, when a deal falls through, you do feel really hurt and a bit bashful, but there's always something to learn from it, that you could have done better yourself, or you learn that that's maybe not the right type of customer for you to go after, or something along those lines.
Yeah, ultimately, Colin, it comes down to personal responsibility, and I think that's the biggest lesson I took away from it, is the fact that I can sit here and I could blame the clients. I could say that, oh, they've strung me along, they've done this, but I allowed myself to be strung along. I was naive, I didn't take the time to take a step back. I allowed myself just to get totally wrapped up, and a lot of that's ego, because I was thinking to myself, I'm talking to one of the biggest companies in the fitness space. They're in America, they're doing all this, they're huge, they've got a huge social media following. Look at me, I'm a wee diddy from Cumbernauld, and I'm doing all the copywriting. I'm the man. That's ultimately what was going on underneath the surface, and that's my fault. I mean, at the end of the day, they're, whether you like it or not, they're a business, and they're saying, look, he's doing all this work and he's not invoiced us. Let's just keep it going until he asks for money, and then we'll disappear. Now, that's not a way to run a business. It's not a very ethical way, but at the end of the day, it's your personal responsibility for your situation, and I set myself up for failure. And I know that's a hard thing for some people to face up to. It's hard for me, but I think once you do that, it's very empowering, because you realise in future deals, hey, I'm in charge. I call the shots, I make the deal, I set the terms, and they're all set up for me to deliver the best work whilst protecting me, my lifestyle, and my business. So personal responsibility, massive in any field.
Big fan of that mindset, as you can probably tell. In terms of the next topic, we've been skirting around it. What is copywriting, Chris, and why does it matter?
What is copywriting? Okay, copywriting is selling with words. That's essentially what it is. You're selling products and services with a written word. That can come in the form of emails, it can come in the form of Facebook ad copy, it can come in the form of say like a script for a video, which in the industry is known as a VSL, a visual sales letter. You can write a sales page, an entire page which is dedicated to selling one thing, one product, one service. So but on a kind of slightly more kind of broader level, it's how you communicate with your audience to create more impact and income, which is why the title of this episode, because it's not just about selling. Of course, that's the bread and butter, but it's also about storytelling, finding the right people for your product or service, positioning you or your business as an authority, creating emotional connections with people. So there's a whole wide array of things, but essentially you're trying to sell through the written word. A lot of copywriters refer to themselves as salesmen in print. That's a kind of common industry term, so I hope that's pretty clear.
Yeah, that clears it up nicely, and ultimately you've given us some examples there. So emails, social posts, landing pages on websites where you're trying to get a customer to make a purchase of a particular product, webinar scripts and video scripts, like you say, where people are using the verbal word, but obviously it's written initially for them to deliver that, and that makes a lot of sense. So ultimately, copywriting is what drives a lot of our sales, and how we communicate with our customer base and audience is vital from that regard. How do you go about winning business then as a copywriter? And I suppose, what are the kind of valuable lessons that we can take in my space, where I'm approaching businesses cold sometimes, or anyone else that's working in a sales environment?
Yeah, so my entire business up until last month is built exclusively off of cold emails. So a cold email, obviously, I'm appearing in my client's inbox. They do not know who I am. They have never heard of me in their life. And I'm taking them from that point to being a high-ticket retainer client. So that's customer. This is people to people.
Sorry, Chris, we lost you a little bit there. Would you go back on that point for me in terms of cold emails? Like, how do you generate your business?
Yeah.
You drop into somebody's inbox for the first time. They've never seen that name, Chris Burns, the Savage Scholar, before.
Yep.
How do we build that up?
So basically, the first, literally to go really detailed in it, the first couple of lines, you're addressing the fact it's a cold email.
Yep.
You get that out of the park straight away, because that automatically disarms people. So what I would normally say is, so say I'm emailing you, Colin, okay? I would say, hi Colin, this is a lukewarm email. And you go, what's a lukewarm email? You want to read on, because you want to know what a lukewarm email is, because you've never heard of that term before. And I say, the reason I say lukewarm is because you don't know me, you've never heard of me, which would typically make this a cold email. But I know who you are, because I've followed you on social media for quite a while. Yep. And I know that you sell X, Y, Z, or I've seen this post the other day and it really had an impact on me. So I would say this is more lukewarm than cold. Maybe you don't agree, but I'm sure by the end of this email, you'll agree this email is roasting hot and you're going to want to reply to me straight away.
Brilliant.
There you go. Made a connection straight away. You've probably got a smile or a wee bit of a giggle out of them as well, which is always good. You're looking to get that emotional response from them. And stand out. Be bold. Don't. I have landed, and then we can get into this more in detail, I have landed a high ticket client off the back of talking about burnt chicken and my cat. I know that sounds really weird, but I'm happy to tell you exactly how I've done it, because you've got to realise that when people get cold emails, a lot of business owners will get them every day. People have heard, I'll increase your leads by 75%, with my funnel, I'll do this. Business owners are numb to that. They want to know, they want to have a personal connection with somebody before they even get into a conversation. They want to know, is this guy a good guy to work with, or is he a dick? And if you come in, dick swinging straight away, talking about how much money you're going to make, that's not going to go well for you. Trust me, even though that's fundamentally what you're doing, if you lead with that, like we said in a conversation the other day, you don't walk up to your preferred sex in a bar and propose to them. How's that going to go? You're not going to get anywhere. So yeah, hopefully that rant is clear. I'm quite passionate about that.
Yeah, you're passionate about that because that's how you have built your business, and that's how the vast majority of people grow their business. Word of mouth and client referrals are brilliant. However, when it comes to scaling business on a large scale, you need to approach people who either don't use your service at the moment and don't know who you are, or they use somebody else in your space that you think you can do the job better than. And a good email will help you to start that relationship, like you say, and start to open that door. And that's a really interesting start to an email. We certainly have a similar effect, because in our industry, a lot of people open up with, hi, my name's Colin Campbell. I've been in the industry for X number of years. I work in this specific sector and I'd like to come and speak to you about why. And
what's that? Sorry to interrupt. That is I, nothing about the client, nothing about how you can add value. Straight away, that email is going to junk.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Exactly. So instead, we very much open with, similar to what you do, we open with what we call a punch in the face, which is some sort of statistic or information or insight about their industry, and then we relate it directly to something that's either in their reporting accounts, on their website, on their LinkedIn, or maybe something that their director's spoken about in the press. All these different sources that you can get information from, but you're opening with something about them, like you've just said, that will catch their eye and will be different from what your bog standard person is sending them, expecting them to open their wallet and say, yes, I'm going to work with you, where instead you need to earn the right potentially to start to build a relationship, let alone ask for their business further down the line.
Absolutely. I mean, the way I see it is, the first email, you're trying to get a reply. That's the only thing you want from that first email, is a reply. And after that, the follow-up, the art is in the follow-up. And the way I started to see the follow-up is like an audition. You're auditioning for this job. So can you continue to add value in your emails? can you be polite? Can you be persistent without being a pest?
Yep.
And can you see this thing through to the end? Can you show them like, oh, this guy really wants to work for us? This guy's showed up in my inbox, even though I've not replied, say, to the next past 2 or 3 emails, he's still sending me emails, but he's not clearly not desperate because I'm not like begging for business. I'm just giving more value, and that's the difference. I think a lot of people, again, their ego gets in the way. Or he never replied, so I'm not sending him another email. They're busy. They've got a business to run. They don't wait around for your email to come in.
Yep.
You need to stay top of mind. You need to email, and we'll get to it in a second. But I landed my first high-ticket client after 34 emails. 34 emails over a 2-month period.
Yep.
And I was persistent, and I was polite, and I gave value. I done everything I've just outlined here, and at the end, they said, one of the bits of feedback they said is, you clearly meant everything you said about being passionate about this business because of the way you followed up. So there you go.
Just one of the things that we'll go into from that is being persistent but not being a pest. One of the best ways to do that, as you've shown, is giving value and maybe telling them something that you know about their business, telling them something you know about their sector, telling them something you're aware of that maybe they're aware of, but trying to frame it in a way for them that they think, oh, this guy does know what he's talking about, and he could potentially help us further down the line. Maybe not now, maybe later. And that's why the number of contacts tends to be up at the higher end. And there's stats that fly around all the time. Like you see these things on LinkedIn. And I know sometimes you call these things out where it's maybe Jordan Belford saying, oh, the average number of contacts for a sale is 17 or 18 or whatever. And I've had wins in my space that have taken me more than that as well, similar to yourself, where you've had back and forth. So I might have emailed a client 8 times and phoned them 5 times in order to even get a first meeting. And then after you meet them, you've then got to convince them to want to do a review and go through the process with you. That might be another 3 or 4 calls after that, or another 3 or 4 emails. And then you've got to convince them that to listen to your proposal and go through that once you've done that for them. And the number of times you have to contact somebody for them to make a buying decision with you is as high as it's ever been, if not higher, because of the internet age that we live in. And the fact that, like you say, there's a lot of other people in both of our spaces probably just throwing enough shit at their email inbox and hoping some of it will stick, which ultimately is one of the problems we encounter when people think automatically of cold emails. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what the 34 emails included then before you got a signed deal? What kind of stuff were you putting out there to move it forward?
Yeah, so this is probably the process that actually refined my whole cold email approach, and I've actually since done like a little kind of presentation on it, and it's worked for other people as well. So the concept is kind of been proven not just with my experience, but also other people. So basically, what I was doing was I was always giving, like I said, always give value, and I think we should define what that actually is. So value in my pitches was either rewriting an email that I'd received from the client's list. Because one, that shows that you're on the list and you're part of their audience. And 2, it gives them something that they can take, copy and paste, put in and test themselves. Yeah. And I would say that to them. I'd say, look, every document attached to this, feel free to steal it. Feel free to steal it and never speak to me again. And by framing it that way, you are kind of putting them in a position, because people don't want to steal. People are inevitably good people. Invariably, they don't want to be known as thieves. So like, oh, I don't want to steal it. I better let them know that I've used it. So there's a bit of psychology going on there when I say that. Yeah. But yeah, and then eventually what I found was I use you've probably used it yourself. I use an app called Loom, which is a screen recording app. And what I would do is I would put the Loom on, record my screen as I was going through perhaps a sales page or some Facebook ad copy that I'd seen, and giving feedback. Because what that does is that lets them see you. You get to look in the whites of their eyes and they see who you are. They say, oh, that's Chris Burns, that's what it looks like. And you can't, in a digital age, you cannot, that's so valuable. Even though it's still on a screen, you understand, they still get to see who you are and hear your voice. It also let me, because all my clients are American, it also let me kind of play on the Scottish accent a little bit, and and make that, just make that connection stay top of mind.
Yeah.
But the follow-ups were really polite, just to say, you always say, I appreciate you're so busy. I would really love to hear your feedback on the emails I sent you over. I'm going to follow up with you a few more times. Please don't take it as me being a pest. I'm just making sure that you have seen my stuff because I know how valuable it can be for you. It's just always positioned as value for you, value for you, value for you. It's not giving your business, giving your business, giving your business,
Yep.
So that's ultimately what it comes down to.
I really enjoyed that, and there's so much to take away from that, even for myself and for anyone that works in the corporate space that's trying to do business development, but even personal trainers or online coaches that make up a percentage of my audience. It's that piece where you need to give a lot and show what exactly you can do. So if we were to do a direct example in my space, it might be that we would look at their accounts and make a comment around their finances or their cash flow, and we would then present a solution related to our insurance model or another way that we can free up their cash flow. It might be premium financing, anything like that we won't go into, but it's taking what you know about them and showing the roadmap in terms of how you would do things either differently or better for them, and not necessarily saying that because I've shown you this, you now need to give me your business. It's just saying, let's have a bit of a further conversation about why this is the right option for you and how I can help. And in the fitness space, it might be showing exactly what you would do for people of their demographic. So it might be showing how you help young guys gain muscle, how you help corporate workers stay in shape, or how you help mothers who are recovering from having a child return back to their former physique. So showing and giving value.
Yeah, that's ultimately what it is, because that's what people are going to buy. And if you're continuing to show more and more value in different forms, like you say, so let's take, you can take another industry, like you say, we're talking about fitness professionals. That value could be, a meal swap sheet. If in a social media post, this doesn't just apply to emails, because if you think about it, your social media channel, a lot of that might be cold. People might see your post for the first time. Don't get too caught up in the medium. It's the underlying principle here. So if you're sharing value, and let's say it is, like, for example, a food swap sheet. So you say you've got, like, full sugar juice, diet juice. You've got all these different food swaps going on that sheet. People see that and go, oh, I'm looking to lose weight. That guy's just giving me a solution. I'm going to follow him. That's your first contact point. And then you follow that up with more valuable points. And then you perhaps have some call to actions, which you can get to in a minute. Through different posts and stories, somebody in your world has seen all that value. All of a sudden you get a DM. Hi there, I'm looking at some online coaching. I see you done some packages. Can you talk to me about it a little bit more? That's how the process goes. That shows how it applies to not any medium, but also any market. Pick a market, apply the principles always apply.
Yeah, those principles are rock solid, like you say, and can be used across the industry. So whoever's listening to this, you can action it. And whoever says that they don't sell for a living, they're probably wrong, because they'll definitely have customers in some sense. So they need to they need to sell in some way, whether you work in retail or hospitality or financial services or personal training or copywriting. Whatever you do, there's an element of sales in order for you to grow your income.
Exactly.
We've called out a few phrases there, and one of those in particular was call to action. Do you want to tell us a little bit about why you need a call to action at some point, or even in every email or every piece of copy? And I'll try and maybe give an example from my space, both fitness and business.
Yeah, sure, of course. So a call to action is when you direct your audience to do something, and the idea behind the call to action is that it conditions the audience to respond to your copy. That's, which means that you have to be respectful of it. Every call to action can't be buy my thing, because that leads to audience, all the fancy terms, well, audience fatigue, whatever you want to call it. People just get fed up here, asking you to buy stuff all the time. So I think that the call to action could literally be, click this link if you're interested in fat loss. There's not a sale, click this link if you're interested in fat loss. Or here's a blog I found, go and check it out, click this link. And this is all about also the email platform. It could be in your social media stories. The next slide is going to be a vote. Who's who's more of a white monster guy, who's more of an orange monster guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you vote on the next slide. That's a call to action. You're asking somebody to act in a certain way. And I think that if you do that regularly enough with your audience, when you do have something valuable to sell, and you say, click the link below, it'll take you to a sales page where you can secure your spot on my fat loss challenge course. Bang, there you go. So that's the power of a call to action. Now, in your space and in the cold email space, the call to action in my emails when I'm prospecting is to either book a call with me,
Yep.
which is positioned as a sales channel audit. That's what I call it, just to kind of make it stand out. And it's always positioned as you're going to walk away from this call with your problems diagnosed and a variety of cures available for your problems.
Love that.
And it can be the same for you, mate. I'm sure your call to action could literally be, let me know your availability next week. Here's my calendar. It's not you're going to do. Here's fill in the bank details here. That's not it. You're just little call to actions, little nudges in the right direction here and there.
Yeah, you've given some brilliant examples there, and pretty much nailed what my examples might have been as well. Where at the end of a social post on Insta or on a story, I'm asking people a question about what I've written about. So if I've written about recently, I wrote about the habit of training at the same time every day. So I'll say, who trains at the same time every day, or how do you plan your training? And the comments and the responses come back to that either via DM or people comment publicly if they're feeling bold. You know what it's like. And or it might be like you say, what post do you want to see tomorrow? Do you want to see a post about the new podcast, or do you want to see a post about habits and routines, or do you want to see a post about nutrition? And people vote on those stories, they get involved. So when I then say a week later that, you said, like you say about the Monster example, you all prefer white Monster to orange, swipe up to use my muscle food discount and buy a crate of 12. And so I've got a call to action and a reason that I've asked them that question. But ultimately I was giving value and letting them get involved and have a conversation around it first. And it wasn't just pure sales, because that's one, not very good fun to follow, and also not a great way to build rapport and a relationship with your audience.
Exactly.
In the business, that's it, Chris. I mean, in the business space, exactly as you said, my emails will finish similar to yours. I'll be either trying to position a Zoom call, as I am at the moment, or position a meeting when I can come and share insight with you about X, Y, or Z. And like you say, you maybe position it as an insight meeting, or you share it as a service review of your existing relationships. And you need to position it as something else rather than just be like, listen, I want to try and quote for your business this year. That's the kind of the low level, and there's always a sliding scale of quality and how you can put your call to action in there, rather than, like you say, asking for somebody to come back to bed with you at the bar on the first time you see them. That's not how it works.
Not going to work. Sorry, guys.
What are some of your recommendations then in terms of people improving their writing? So we've spoken about how to open an email or a piece of copy, and we've spoken about calls to action. What are the other recommendations that you can make in terms of how people can improve how they communicate?
I think the first thing is writing a conversational tone. You're not trying to pass standard grade English. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about writing, is that you have to write in it's more in the fitness space and in the corporate space, is it has to be very technical, jargon driven posts, and nobody wants to read that. Nobody. I mean, even people that write the textbooks don't want to read their own textbooks. It's boring. You don't want to write like that. And it all comes down to the fact that it's always people buying people. It's never, that's all it is. You're trying to connect with people here through the written word, and you're not going to do that if you are posting super high level, and by the way, everything I say here I've done myself. I'm not saying this from a position of on my high horse. Like, I remember the things I used to post when I get to fitness, and I was talking about the biomechanics of squats and the hip angle and things like that. I'm like, who cares about that? Like, but ultimately, the only people that would impress would be other PTs, maybe, and they're not going to be your clients. So write as if the way I approached it is one of the ways to think about it Imagine you're sitting on the couch next to the person you're writing the post to, and write your post to one person. Imagine you're writing the post to a single person. It's like a text message. Imagine you're sitting on the couch next to them and you're talking about whatever the topic of your post, email, whatever it is. Think about how you would see it. And then even you can even go as far, and I gave this tip to a PT, and he said it really helped, was do a voice note. Say what you're going to post, then play it back and type it out, and then tweak it if you need to. But I think if you look at like your posts, they're always conversational tone. Like we spoke on the phone for the first time last week, earlier this week, but
Yep.
I felt like I'd spoken to you loads of times because I followed you on social media for so long, and your posts are conversational and they're light-hearted, and they're always on point, and they're always valuable, and they're always entertaining. So I think that if you get that nailed down first, honestly, that's a huge foundation. Like that's huge before anything else. Before we get into any super like really more technical stuff or like anything else, I would say that writing a conversational tone, that's number one.
Of course. First of all, thanks for the compliments. You're no wonder you're on the podcast. You've been nice to me. So I certainly try to do that. And in my workspace, one of the principles we try to have is if you, so say one of the other development guys that sits next to me, I'll write an email that I'm sending to somebody for the first time, and I'll send it to him and I'll say, open that on your phone. And if it's a lot more than one flick on a screen on your phone, the busy finance director, the busy managing director that I want to speak to is not going to be interested in what I've got to say, because a lot of the time these guys are on the go between meetings, or when you do catch them at their desk, they're not going to want to read through screeds and screeds of why we are the best business in the sector to support you and lots of long-winded words. So one of the principles that I've done to try and whittle that down is less commas and more full stops, which basically is just a way to whittle down and make some of your sentences a little bit more punchy, rather than creating long lists of content and long lists of sentences that are really screeds and screeds and screeds. You can shorten things down by starting to remove commas, put full stops, and understand if am I using language that's too flowery or am I being direct to the point?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that's a huge thing as well, is brevity, and don't use 100 words when you can use 5. Really get to the point. And I think that the other two things that I would say, and we can go into these in detail if you want. So I'd say the first thing is conversational tone. The second thing is focus on the emotions of your audience, not the logic. Emotions over logic. And the third thing is benefits over features. So you get conversational tone, emotions over logic, and benefits over features. If you have those three things, you will be better than 95% of your competitors. I guarantee it. Okay? Because everybody wants to talk about the features of their product and the features of their service. And everybody wants to appeal to the logic of their audience. Nobody buys with logic. No, you don't buy with logic. If you bought with logic, Ferrari would have 0 sales, Rolex would have 0 sales. Giant people logically buy a Rolex. They buy it because the way it makes them feel, because they want a Rolex. People buy Ferraris because they want to see that pony on their steering wheel, and hear the revs. They want that, they want to be a Ferrari driver. If they didn't have that, they just go out and buy a bog standard car, and save hundreds of thousands of pounds. So yeah, those are the other things that I would definitely encourage people to focus.
Brilliant points, and we'll go through each in turn. First of all, the emotion versus logic, and what you've already demonstrated with your opening to emails, where you're saying something about this is a lukewarm email. This by the end of this email, hopefully you'll appreciate that it's piping hot. You're starting to tap into their emotions, so you're making them laugh. You're making them you're building a rapport with them, and they're starting to see that you're a human being rather than just another, either a call center monkey that's just bashing out emails all day and is going to pick up the phone and try and cold call them endlessly, or just send them the same email saying, buy our product, because that's such an easy place to fall into if you're just doing things by volume. So like you say, emotion over logic is a great one. And the third area where you're talking about how to best position things is another favorite of mine. So if you'd be happy to expand on that a little bit more for me, Chris.
Yeah, so the benefits over features, is that what you mean, yeah?
Yeah, so benefits over features. So rather than just listing, like you say, how what our product includes. So our product includes 24-hour access to this phone line.
Yeah.
You could instead say something like, after working with us, you'll have peace of mind that you have access to support throughout the day. So it's more of a, I like to use afters. I don't know if that's a phrase you're familiar with. So after you work with Chris Burns, you'll have this, rather than what I do is X.
Yes, of course. So for my service personally, it would be, I could easily say, like, you know, a feature would be, I'll write your emails for you. You know,
As
well,
basic as
where
that.
do I sign up? I better go, you know, answer the queue of customers at my door. You know, nobody gives a toss about that.
Yeah.
But if you say you're going to have regular, powerful communication with your audience that turns them into raving fans and ready to hit the buy button whenever you launch anything, that's a benefit. It's not a feature. Now, feature, yeah, that's the vehicle. But what's just outlined there, that's the benefit that they get from that feature. And like you're saying there, if you put something that says like their 24/7 support line, you can say something like, no matter where, no matter when, you will always have peace of mind knowing that we have you covered in any situation.
That's it.
So that's the peace of mind. So that's the benefit from the feature. You know, nobody really cares about 24/7 support, but they do care. Say it's a breakdown cover or whatever it is, right? They do care that, you know, in the worst situation, they have somebody to call, they have something to fall back on. You know, so that's the benefit that you're looking to tap into there. So if you look at your service or your product and list all the features out, and then right next to it, do another column and say, what is the benefit of that feature? What's the real benefit in relation to my audience? Because you don't sell, if you're a coach, you don't sell training programs. That's, you might think you do, but your audience isn't buying a training program. They're buying something more than that, and you've got to find what that is.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I mean, just you've got my ideas flowing here. And so maybe you say that as part of your online coaching package, you get a weekly Zoom call, or you get a weekly FaceTime where we discuss things. So rather than saying weekly FaceTime included, you say something like, in terms of features, you have weekly support face to face with me as part of the journey, where we can raise any issues that you've got, rather than just saying that kind of information up front and there's no kind of context to it. So you'll probably phrase it even better than I will, Chris, but as a bit of an example, what would you say to somebody including like a feature like that?
So what I would say to that is, off the top of my head, I would say something on the lines of, have you ever wanted to have somebody to speak to on a weekly basis who actually listened to you and gave you accurate feedback and helped you move closer to your goals? We have that with this service, because in our weekly support call, we're going to dive deep into the issues that you've faced throughout the week. We're going to celebrate your wins, we're going to forget about your losses, and we're going to get back on track for the next week.
Oh, lovely, Chris. Just lovely. Brilliant. So we've got 3 really actionable tips there in terms of how people can better improve their writing, whether that's socials, emails, websites, whatever they choose to communicate with their customers on. One of the things from a business perspective that I wanted to talk about as our kind of last point was how you've started to structure your business as somebody who is an independent business owner and, by all accounts, freelance. What have you done to structure that in terms of income?
Yeah, so I basically, I know some people, again, this will be their first exposure to copywriting. So copywriting, from a business standpoint, you're selling money at a discount because you're always tied to the sales that you create. So it tends to be, you know, there's unlimited potential for you. I mean, that's the only point I want to get across here is, like, you know, there's some copywriters in the world that earn ridiculous amounts of money. You know, they're very, very monetarily successful. And I wanted to structure my business in a way that just gave me peace of mind and security. And the best way to do that is have a retainer. So you have a monthly recurring contract with clients, which means that you can always count on that money coming in. And the way I went about that is, okay, so I need to be charging higher fees. So you present your services in almost like a buffet style. So rather than saying, I'm going to do this one-off project, you say, well, I can come on board and be your go-to guy. Again, this is benefits over features. Be your go-to guy, you have access to my expertise and my services on a monthly basis for this fee. And you set up that, you get your invoices out the start of the month, so you paid ahead of time. If the client happens to object to that, you simply say, look, if I get paid at the start of the month, it means that I can focus on doing the best possible job for you. You've got to understand that as a small business owner, I can't be chasing invoices at the end of the month. I'm not saying you're going to do that, but we both know there's guys out there like that, so I've got to have one rule to cover them all. So get paid first, get paid up front, and position it like that, so it's actually a benefit to your client.
Yep.
And yeah, constantly charge higher fees, not for no reason, but when you start getting client wins and when you start to see a huge ROI, take a step back and assess your fees and think, okay, well, I can reasonably charge this much more in my retainer package every month. You know, and don't get me wrong, I still do project work, but it's all on the foundation of high ticket retainers, which gives me, you know, like I said, security and peace of mind, and it means I'm not doing the whole feast and famine freelancer thing where you have 1 month that's great and then the next month is, you know, you've not got any work.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in doing that. I just don't think you're ever going to grow if that's your business model.
Yeah, really good points for any kind of business owner about building those foundations for a level of financial security. I think at this particular time, given what's happened with COVID-19, not that we're going to use the C word too much during this pod, thankfully we haven't done, we are more aware than ever of our financial insecurity potentially, where income can fluctuate, whether that's in our corporate job where some people are on furlough or some people are having enforced wage cuts or some people being made redundant altogether. And those principles are quite sound, where as much as possible you want to guarantee yourself that level of income each month. That means that you have those retainers, but also you can look at projects almost not willy-nilly, that's probably not the right term, but you can ad hoc choose which projects you take on because you've got a solid foundation underneath that. The other point that we've talked about offline is how you structure your working day around your lifestyle now, because you spoke about how you looked at yourself as a PT working at maybe 6:30 in the morning, leaving the gym at 9:30 at night, and that passion wasn't as strong as copywriting, but this copywriting probably buys you a bit more flexibility. Is that right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, this is people might not realise it's a quote from Spider-Man. It sounds very profound, but with great power comes great responsibility. You know? And I've actually seen people quote that seriously and they don't even know it's from Spider-Man.
It's Uncle Ben, isn't it?
Uncle Ben, aye. Anyway, sorry.
He's not just good for rice, he's good for quotes as well.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, the way I kind of structure my day is the way I wanted to structure my day was I just wanted to have everything centered around freedom with me. That's one of my sole focuses, is to have freedom in my life in all aspects of it. And with PT, you're there when your clients can make it. As much as obviously you can have a waiting list and all the rest of it, you still have to serve your clients. And I was finding I was getting home late at night, like I said earlier. So with copywriting, I work from home. I've got a home office that I'm in just now, or I work from a coffee shop just around the corner from my house, obviously when it's open. And I can literally work my schedule and work into my girlfriend's schedule. My girlfriend works shifts, she works my shift rotations, night shift, back shift, early shift and things like that. And I wanted to be there to spend time with her on days off, which means that her weekend sometimes is Monday, Tuesday. Well, yeah. That's my weekend. But that's actually what's happening right now. She's on back shift this weekend. So I'm working all weekend and I'll take earlier finishes on Monday and Tuesday. I'll finish kind of mid-afternoon sort of time, spend a lot of quality time with her. I love cooking. It's a big thing for me to cook a home cooked meal every night for myself and my girlfriend. So it means I'm there to do that. With personal training, I couldn't do that, So yeah, it just means I can structure my day, but like we say, the great responsibility is to stick to it, you need to fulfill your responsibilities. You can't just shift things around to the next day and let work pile up, So I think restructuring your day is just taking a responsible look at it, allowing yourself some flexibility, but then also being relentless on the things that you're going to do every day. You know, the top 3 things that must get done first thing. So that's how I structure my day.
Yeah, that's certainly what I was expecting you to say, because I know we've spoken about this previously, and you're very much somebody that you'll give yourself as much freedom, as you say, as possible, but there needs to be an element of structure to that as well, which it sounds counterintuitive, but being more structured for periods allows greater freedom outside of that. So like you say, if you're wanting to take the weekend in line with your partner, which is going to be Monday, Tuesday, the Wednesday to Sunday needs to be really structured and productive. Otherwise, you've not earned the right to have that freedom, and you might have a backlog of work, or the work that you've done might be of a poorer quality because you weren't productive. When typically on a Saturday and Sunday you'd be relaxing, you need to be on it. You need to be logged on your laptop when some of your friends potentially are having their weekend and relaxing. So that's a nice point where kind of discipline and structure is going to equal long-term freedom for you.
Yeah, I think it's about it's like positive constraints. You know, that's what it is. It's not like, you know, I mean, I could easily do the whole, which I'm sure you know, I'm not a fan of, the whole hustle mode. Oh, I'm in here working on the weekend, grinding in my office. Like, I'm not. I'm doing exactly what I want to do. You know, and I think that if you go too far into that mindset of like, you know, patting yourself on the back for working certain days or doing certain things, I think that's it's not a very productive thing to do. You know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what day it is to me. It just matters that the work gets done and that my freedom's being fulfilled. That's what matters. They're the 2 things that need to be ticked off. And like you said, like I was saying, the positive constraints of that are that when I do switch off, I'm properly switched off. You know, and that's something that maybe people that aren't self-employed don't really realise to a certain extent. It's like when you say, "Oh, I'll just take a day off," you know, just finish early. It's like, well, do you realise if I finish early, I'm going to be thinking about work, so I've not finished, because you physically switch off, as in you're not doing the work, but you've not mentally switched off. You're still thinking about work, you're still worried about things. But if I make sure that I stick to what I say I'm going to do, and like I say, I stick to the structure, I know for a fact that when I switch off and I spend time with mates, or I go do something by myself, or I'm spending time with Gillian, I know that I'm 100% present in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not 75%, I'm all in on whatever I'm doing, and that's really important.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and that's certainly something that I've always tried to do, particularly when I've got my 9-5 and I've got this side hustle of Instagram, podcast, and affiliate deals, or whatever you want to call it, where it's very easy to always be on, in terms of either you're always on with your corporate insurance head on, or you're always on with your content creating head on, which is, it's a better term than influencer at least. And and so you've always got that head on. But for example, during this period on weekends when I've not got the structure of 9-5, I've got a to-do list that I batter through, and this is on the to-do list: record podcast with Chris. But then once that to-do list's done, I can put my phone away, I can stay off Instagram, I can watch Netflix, or I can go on my phone and FaceTime friends, speak to friends, go on a Zoom call with friends, and I can relax and be fully present in that, rather than thinking about the stuff that I've still got left to do that I maybe haven't been disciplined enough to get ticked off already.
Oh, it's so true, mate. So true. Because you just think about quality of life and everything you do, don't you? You find you get more from the other things that you do. And I know it sounds silly, but like, you get more from just a simple thing of watching Netflix. Like, you actually enjoy the show you're watching, you know. Or if it's like you're reading a book, you actually absorb the book and you really get into it because you're actually really engaged in what you're doing, rather than like having half an hour and like, can I sneak back to work? Like, can I open the laptop for an hour? You know, I've done that for a long time, by the way. I've made that mistake. And I think it's just having the confidence in yourself to say, these are the things I'm working, these are the things I need to do. And then I'm switching off. And put yourself under a little bit of pressure. I don't think pressure is always a bad thing. You know, if you say, like, I'm switching off at 3 o'clock today, so I need to get my shit together in order to do that. Because if I don't do it and 3 o'clock finish doesn't happen, or whatever your positive constraint is, you know, make it personal to you. But I've certainly found a lot of benefits from taking that approach.
I really like that, Chris, and I think that's not a terrible note for us to end on. I hope people have got a lot of value from this episode and understand now how much impact you can create with a written word, as well as some of the actionable tips and advice that Chris and I have spoken about today. Chris, where can people find you, if they wanted to follow up with some questions or just get some further guidance?
So you can find me on Instagram at Savage Scholar Chris, and you can email me, and my email address is chris@thesavagescholar.com. If you stick in the subject line CamBro conversation, I'll know where you have came from, and I'll make sure to get back to you as soon as I possibly can.
That sounds good. I'll pop both of those in the show notes. If you have enjoyed it so far, guys, please take a screenshot, pop it on your Instagram story, tag Chris and I. I look forward to all to your feedback, and I'll speak to you all again very